Dear student, complexities and difficulties in any explanation can be reduced, can be simplified. How it is possible? By following very simple method. It is a very useful method for the preparation of examination also. The method is designing flowchart. Student, if you are able to design flowchart with flow of your thoughts, because flow of thoughts and flowchart coordinate with each other. If you are able to design different patterns of flowchart, then your level of understanding becomes intense. As a result, explanation becomes easy. Dear student, in this session, you will find my explanation with the help of flowchart. Hi, I am Kiran. In this session, I am explaining you about definition of gemmule. What are the gemmules? These are the asexual reproductive structures of sponge, that is freshwater sponge. In this session, I am focusing on definition of gemmule, structure of gemmule, formation and development of gemmule. Student, let us move on to the session. Dear student, what actually the gemmules are? Means, what are the gemmules? In general, gemmules are internal buds. These are internal buds, and these gemmules are involved in asexual reproduction. These are involved in asexual reproduction. So these are internal buds and are involved in asexual reproductions. These are gemmules are asexual reproductive structures, and hence these are involved in asexual reproduction. Then these are aggregation of cells, that is, these are mass of cells. Just you have to remember these points, student, then we will define with the help of all these points, then we can define what actually gemmules are. The next one is, these are capable of developing into new organisms. These are capable of developing into new organisms. These are capable of developing into new organisms. So these points are helpful for us to know what actually basically gemmule is. Dear student, based on all these points, we can easily define the gemmule. Let us consider the definition of a gemmule. Definition of gemmule. See, asexually produced asexually produced mass of cells. These are asexually produced mass of cells. Asexually produced mass of cells which are these are asexually produced mass of cells which are capable of developing into new organism. Or into an adult freshwater sponge. Is termed as gemmule. So here we must have to concentrate on certain points. So dear student, each and every definition has certain terms. Each and every definition has certain terms. On these terms the definition depends on. If you want to define the definition, whether the subject may be of physics, mathematics, or whatever may be, the definition mainly depends on certain points. So first you have to keep in your mind these important points and correlate those points and understand, then it is very easy for you to construct a definition. So here in this definition, all the points whatever we have discussed initially are actually explained here, means correlated here in the definition. So first of all, what are the gemmules? Gemmules are internal birds involved in asexual reproduction. So that's why here asexually produced, then mass of cells. See here, asexual reproduction. These are asexual reproductive structures. This point is important. That's why this point is considered. Then mass of cells. Remember the mass of cells, and hence these are not only asexually reproductive structures, these are also mass of cells. See here again the mass of cells, this term is considered. Then which are capable of developing into new organism. So this point, these are capable of developing into new organism. Okay, this point is considered, and that same point is actually used in definition. So developing into new organism or into an adult freshwater sponge is termed as gemmule. So that these points asexually produced mass of cells and capable of developing into new organism or into an adult sponge, means freshwater sponge. So these points whatever we have discussed one by one here are all considered, and hence we have got the meaningful definition here. So that dear student, don't practice any definition again and again. No need to buy the definition again and again. Simply first you have to choose the important points of the definition and enlist those and correlate those points, and then you will get definition meaningfully. You can easily define the definition meaningfully. So this is how we can define the gemmule. So the gemmule is basically, it is an internal bird, it is considered as internal bird, and mainly the gammules are involved in asexual reproduction. These are acting as asexual reproductive structures, and the gammules are basically mass of cells. These are together aggregation of cells, means so that the gammules aggregate together to form mass of cells, and the gammules capable of developing into or capable of germinating into a new organism. So these 3 points are important to define the gamule. That's why here in the definition we have considered the 3 points. On the basis of these 3 points we have got the meaningful definition like this. So the gammules are asexually produced mass of cells which are capable of developing into new organism. Means these are first of all the mass of cells and are involved in asexual reproduction, capable of carrying asexual reproduction, and that's why they actually develops capable of developing into new organism and develops into new organism. This is how the definition can be easily defined. Then the structure of gamule. Dear student, let us understand structure of gamule. So gamule has a very simple structure. It has very simple structure. So it has a opening and a membrane, that is outer and inner membrane. It is generally in a oval shape. Gemule has a specialized cells known as archeocytes. These are the archeocytes. These cells are known as totipotent cells, in the sense these are having ability to germinate into a new adult sponge. That is why, hence the name for these archeocytes is totipotent. These archeocytes embryonic in nature. These are embryonic in nature, and these are having ability to develop into or ability to germinating into a new adult sponge. So very simple structure the gamule possesses. This is called as a micropile end. It is known as micropile opening. It is micropile opening, it is, through which what happens, these archeocytes comes out. And here around the archeocytes, in between the outer and inner membrane, there are spicules, monoxen spicules. These are spicules are present here. So this is outer membrane or outer covering. Outer membrane and inner membrane. Inner membrane, and these are the spicules. These are the spicules, and mainly here inside the gamule, spatial cells known as sites. These are known as archaeosites. These archaeosites, if you consider this micropile, it is okay, a tiny opening. It is actually the micropile is nothing but it is a tiny opening. So when conditions are favorable, these archaeosites comes out through this opening. So that's why here a micropile is a tiny opening in which what happens through which the archaeosites during favorable conditions comes out and develops into a new sponge. So the archaeosites, if we consider, these archaeosites, these are clusters of undifferentiated cells. So these are clusters of undifferentiated cells. Means here the word that is undifferentiated, what actually you mean by undifferentiated means this doesn't have any work to do. This doesn't have any work to do. Means in a sense these are merely considered as cells. So that's why these are undifferentiated cells. So I will again now explain the structure of Gemule. Gemule, it has a very simple, it exhibits a very simple structure. It has a micropile end. It is a tiny opening through which what happens, the cells, specialized cells, archaeosites, they comes out during favorable conditions, and followed by the membrane like outer membrane and inner membrane, and then the spicules. These spicules protect the cells, protect the archaeosite cells from the predator. So the spicules also present in between inner and outer membrane. The spicules are lined here, which surrounds the archaeosite cells. So the micropile opening and so group of cells, aggregation of cells, these are known as archaeosites, which are undifferentiated cells. These are sterile and these are not at all having any work to do. That's why these are called as undifferentiated cells. Means doesn't have any work to do. These are merely a group of cells. So the micropile end and then spicules which surrounds the inner archaeosites, and it has two membrane like outer membrane and inner membrane. This is a structure of a Gemule, a very simple structure of a Gemule. So that here in this structure the archaeosites are a very important. These are called as totipotent cells. Why these are called as totipotent cells? Because these are having ability to germinate into a new adult sponge. That is why these are known as totipotent cells. So this is all of about structure of Gemule. Let us have a glance at specification and formation of Gemule. The Gemules are specific in resisting environmental drastic conditions. For example, drying up of water, as well as freezing of water, that is freezing up of water. Even there is a scarce amount of water, in that condition gemmules sustain. Even if water freezes, gemmules withstand that condition also. And these gemmules are resistant to drying up of water and freezing up of water. These gemmules are also resistant to condition known as anoxia. Condition known as anoxia. What actually mean by the anoxia? Anoxia, the condition, it denotes extreme shortage of oxygen is known as anoxia. Dear student, remember this term, maybe the question will occur in examination. So the gemmules are resistant to drying up of water, freezing up of water. Even in scarce amount of water, the gemmules can survive. Gemmules can also resistant to anoxia. Anoxia means in extreme shortage of oxygen, these gemmules can also survive. So this is how the gemmules are very much extent specific in resisting environmental drastic conditions. Now, formation. Formation or development of gemmule. Formation and development of gemmule. Dear student, we have already known that gemmules are asexually reproductive structures in sponges. So here the sponges are actually get attached to the substratum in fresh water. So these sponges during autumn, these sponges die by leaving behind numerous gemmules. These freshwater sponges during autumn season die, leaving behind numerous numbers of gemmules. So gemmules are liberated out from the sponges. Gemmules liberated out from the sponges, and these gemmules remain active. These gemmules remain active. These gemmules remain active in unfavorable conditions. Even in unfavorable conditions, these gemmules are active. Unfavorable conditions we have already discussed here. Even in scarce amount of water, even if water freezes out, and even also if there is an extreme shortage of oxygen. In all these conditions, gemmules survive, remain active. So gemmules remain active during the unfavorable conditions like summer as well as winter season. So here the conditions, if the conditions during summer and winter season conditions are drastic, so in such a drastic conditions, the gemmule survive. They can withstand these seasons like summer and winter. Then when conditions favorable, when the conditions are favorable, then what happens here? When the conditions are favorable, when there is a adequate amount of water, when there is availability of an abundant amount of water, then what happens? These gemmules develops into adult sponge, adult freshwater sponge. So this is how the development and formation of gemmule takes place. First of all, these gemmules are released from the sponges, freshwater sponges, and these gemmules remain active in unfavorable conditions like summer and winter. When the favorable conditions retain, these gemmules develops into adult freshwater sponge. So this is all of about specification and formation as well as development of gemmule. Dear student, we have already studied asexual reproductive structures like zoospores, which are found in Chlamydomonas, and the gemmules found in freshwater sponge. In the next session, we will discuss about sexual reproduction. Thanks a lot for watching the session. Dear student, if you want to join the series of sessions with innovative ideas like these, please subscribe, leave a comment, hit the bell icon, and don't forget to share with your friends. Expecting you all in the next session. Thank you.